Shalom and good day all. This is Tehillim29 back again for Fool's Gold. And in this review of Fool's Gold, Brian Michael Bendis' Justice League, issue 70. And I must admit, I'm really looking forward to reviewing this Fool's Gold because, yes, this has still shown how bad Brian Michael Bendis' storytelling has actually gotten. I must admit, the story in the back by Ram V is the better story, and it's a good thing that I'm not actually reviewing that story, because if I were to review that story, that would be in a main comic review. But because they're both in the same book, it's a little bit difficult to separate the two. And this is why I got to cover the main story. So, to those who are new to Fool's Gold, this is how my rating system works. Now, I don't know how many of you are new to the channel, and this is why I actually have this rating cover on the left hand side here. And my rating goes in regards to the cover. So the cover is given 1 out of 10, and to add on that, how much I think the cover is worth. And you might think, why is that important? Well, you'll soon find out, because it also applies in regards to the art in the story, as well as the story itself. Now, there is also a total that goes to the artist, and also a total for the writer. Now, as you can see here, there is a currency conversion little chart here that I've got written up. And as you can see, the price in American US dollars, it's $4.99, or close to $5 in the US. But in Australian dollar, it's just under $9. So Brian Michael Bendis has to help try to make up at least a little over half of that amount in the story, along with the artist. So jumping into first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside of the story? Sure enough, it does. To which I give this cover a 7 out of 10, to which I believe it is worth about $1.50. Now, we are talking $1.50 in Australian dollars, not in US dollars. And as you can see here, we've got Green Arrow, we've got a connection to the Royal Flush Gang, because they played a part in the last issue, and they're back again in this issue. So, time to jump to the next part, and that is the internal arts, which we'll look at the beginning, middle, and end in regards to art. Of course, I'll get to point out some of the characters in that, as well as some of the things that are happening in the story. Now, here we begin at the beginning of the story, and of course we've got Mark Shaw, who is connected to Leviathan, but the only thing sort of missing in this is something I'll get to later, especially in regards to my story rating. Of course, we can see the members of the Royal Flush Gang, and of some of their own little questions in regards to Mark Shaw. I'll now jump towards the middle of the story. Now, this is the midway point. I must admit, I did enjoy the artwork in this. If it's something that Brian Michael Bendis is really good at, it's actually finding some pretty good artists. That is something I do give credit for him to. and that is some of the artists that he does manage to get in, whether it's on his work or for someone else's work. Sure, some aren't top tier, but at least they give it a go. And last but not least, some of the art towards the end of the story. To which we had Superman and Batman going up against one of the villains, and I gave the art for this, the internal art, 7 out of 10, to which I believe it is worth $1.50. So that's $3 up straight for the artist. So I think it's easy to tell who's going to win this in regards to who did better, the artist or the writer. So, moving into the story rating. To those who are new to following this channel, and in regards to how I also rate my stories, there are certain points that I like to look for, or there are certain things that I like to look for. Number one is references, in such as, for example, comic references. Things that can help direct the reader, being myself or even yourself, who might be reading a certain comic, and say, for example, this might be your first comic, and this comic might be missing a comic reference because the previous comic that is connected to this run is missing, and there might be some valuable information in that. It's important to have that comic reference shown in the comic. Sure, there might be a little talk bit at the beginning, but sometimes you need a direct comic issue to be referenced. Did this comic get a direct comic issue which was referenced? The answer is not at all. Now we move into the next area, the time. When do these things take place? Do we get an idea? Was it a Monday? Was it a Tuesday? Etc., etc. Well, in regards to time, this is how Brian Michael Bendis handled it. And I must admit, if he had have brought in even the comic reference of Checkmate, like the latest issue of Checkmate, or the last issue of Checkmate, I believe this would have also helped with this review and would have given him some more points. This is how he handled it, and quite lazily, I must admit. We had then, literally then, used 3 times throughout the story in regards to some things that were playing out in the past, and now was only used once. The locations, of course, even though you could see them visually, they weren't sort of like pointed out either by Brian Michael Bendis or the editor. The Fortress of Solitude, and of course a link to Markovia becoming Leviathan. Of course, that would have been much helpful if we did have the comic reference to Checkmate, because it would really help with the story. Last but not least is the cast of characters, because as we know, without the cast of characters, we also need to understand their role in the story. First off, we had Mark Shaw in discussions with the Royal Flush Gang, and of course discussing some of his plan of what he wanted to do. And of course we had Black Adam, Superman, Kalex, the Flash. So we had members of the Justice League, as well as Black Canary. I didn't see Hippolyta in this. Of course we saw Naomi, but of course Batman too, as they were going to investigate the scene. Overall, this story rating got a 4 out of 10. It lost a lot of points. But how much do I believe the story is worth? $1, $2? No. Try 90 cents Australian, giving an overall total of $3.90. Now, if you really want to check out some good Brian Michael Bendis, go pick up his Jinx World. You don't want to pick up this. Hey, go pick up Torso or Powers. I recommend them over this any time of the week. Or even check out Joy Operations. Yes, it's a new story of his, but I definitely recommend it. I've read the first issue, I've finished the second. I'm definitely looking forward to the third. Well, until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.